boys and girls, I wanted to share a book with you since we're not in school. This is a book that I usually read every year to my class, so I'm going to read it for you now. It's called Did I Ever Tell You How Lucky You Are by Dr. Seuss. When I was quite young and quite small for my size, I met an old man in a desert of dries, and he sang me a song I will never forget. At least, well, I haven't forgotten it yet. He sat in a terribly prickly place, but he sang with a sunny, sweet smile on his face. When you think things are bad, when you feel sour and blue, when you start to get mad, just do what I do. Just tell yourself, ducky, you're really quite lucky. Some people are much more, oh ever so much more, oh muchly, much, much more unlucky than you. Be glad you don't work on the Bungle Bung Bridge that they're building across Boomer Bay at Bum Ridge. It's a troublesome world, all the people who are in it are troubled with troubles almost every minute. You ought to be thankful a whole heaping lot for the places and people you are lucky you are not. Just suppose, for example, you lived in Gazette and got caught in that traffic on Zate Highway 8. Or suppose, just for instance, you lived in Gazette with your bedroom up here and your bathroom up there. Suppose, just suppose, you were poor Herbie Hart, who has taken his thrombdibulator apart. He never will get it together, I'm sure. He will never know if the gick or the gore fits into the scrunks or the snunks or the snore. Yes, ducky, you're lucky you're not Herbie Hart, who has taken his thrombdibulator apart. Think they work you too hard? Think of poor Ollie Sard. He has to mow grass in his uncle's backyard. It's quick-growing grass, and it grows as he mows it. The faster he mows it, the faster he grows it. And all of that stingy uncle will pay for his shoving that mower around in the hay is the piffless pay of 2 duklas a day. And Ollie can't live on such piffless pay. So he has to paint flagpoles on Sundays and grooves. How lucky you are, you don't live in his shoes. And poor Mr. Bix, every morning at 6, poor Mr. Bix has his borfin to fix. It doesn't seem fair, it doesn't seem right, but his borfin just seems to go schlump every night. It schlumps in a heap, sadly needing repair. Bix figures it's due to the local night air. It takes him all day to unschlump it, and then the night air comes back and it schlumps once again. So don't you feel blue, don't get down in the dumps. You're lucky you don't have a borfin that schlumps. And while we are at it, consider the schlots, the crumple-horned, web-footed, green-bearded schlots, whose tail is entangled with unsolvable knots. If he isn't much more worse off than you, I'll eat my umbrella. That's just what I'll do. And you're lucky indeed. You don't ride on a camel. To ride on a camel, you sit on a whammel. A whammel, you know, is a sort of a saddle held on by a button that's known as a faddle. And boy, if your old whammel faddle gets loose, I'm telling you, ducky, you're gone like a goose. And poor Mr. Potter, T-crosser-eyed daughter, he has to cross T's and he has to dot I's in an I&T factory out in Van Nuys. Oh, the jobs people work at out west near Hotch Hotch. There's a Hotcher bee watcher. His job is to watch, is to keep both his eyes on the lazy town bee. A bee that is watched will work harder, you see. Well, he watched and he watched, but in spite of his watch, that bee did not work any harder, not much. So then somebody said, our old bee watching man just isn't be watching as hard as he can. He ought to be watched by another hotch-hotcher. The thing we need is a bee watcher. Well, the bee watcher watched the bee watcher. He didn't watch well, so another hotch-hotcher had to come in as a watcher. And today, all the hotchers who live in Hotch are watching on watcher watching, watching, the watcher who's watching that bee. You're not a hotch watcher, you're lucky, you see. And how fortunate you're not Professor DeBreeze, who has spent the past 32 years, if you please, trying to teach Irish ducks how to read Jivanese. And think of the poor puffing Pooglehorn players who have to parade down the Pooglehorn stairs every morning to wake up the Prince of Booboken. It's awful how often their poogles get broken. And oh, just suppose you were poor Harry Haddo. Try as he will, he can't make any shadow. He thinks that's perhaps something's wrong with his giz. And I think that by golly, there probably is. And the brothers Bazoo, the poor brothers Bazoo, suppose your hair grew like theirs happened to do. You think you're unlucky? I'm telling you, ducky, some people are muchly, oh ever so muchly, more unlucky than you. And suppose that you lived in the forest in France, where the average young person just hasn't a chance to escape from the perilous pants-eating plants. But your pants are safe. You're a fortunate guy, and you ought to be shouting, how lucky am I. And speaking of plants, you should be greatly gladish. You're not Farmer Falkenberg's 17th radish. It's getting ready to get eaten right there. And you're so lucky you're not Gucky Gown, who lives by himself 90 miles out of town in the ruins of Ronk. Ronk is rather run down. And you're so lucky you're not a left sock left behind by mistake in the caverns of Croc. Thank goodness for all the things that you're not. Thank goodness you're not something someone forgot and left all alone in some punkerish place, like a rusty tin coat hanger hanging in space. That's why I say, ducky, don't grumble, don't stew. Some critters are much, oh ever so much, so muchly, much more unlucky than you. So I usually have my students write a paragraph about what makes them lucky. So this book was all about people being more unlucky than you are. So I want you to think about what makes you lucky. I'll start. I'm very lucky that I have a wonderful family who loves me. I am lucky that I work for Huntington Elementary School, where I have the best students and the best principal. And I'm lucky that I get to see all of you hopefully really soon. So I want you to take time today and think about how lucky you are. Something that makes you lucky, something that you feel like you are blessed to have. Write it in the comments, have your mom and dad help you, maybe write a paragraph and share with me later. I hope you guys are all doing well, and I hope to see you very soon.